Hello and welcome to Adventure Built Gaming. My name is Ryan, and in this episode I show you how I build docks/bridges for my gaming table. It's a little bit of extra work in the end, but it's worth it. So let's go check it out. So starting out for the bottom beams of the bridges/docks, I'm using 1/4 by 1/4 balsa wood, cutting to 12-inch lengths. Pretty much scoring them and snapping them off to give them a rough cut look. If you want, you can cut them straight. Use a saw even. Now onto the top planks. I'm cutting them 2 inches long. I'm using my Nipex side cutters to make it fast and easy. I marked it out before so then I could just go to town nipping them all. Using super glue, attaching the 3 points to the long pieces. Hold it in place before I add all the other ones. I'm putting a 1-inch space on the inside. I don't know why I did it that way. I just chose that's the way I do it. Holds it in place, the super glue does. Now just use an Eileen's tacky glue. Run a strip on each side and just drop them in. Space them how you want. Rinse and repeat. And the same for the short ones. These are 6 inches long, roughly there. I have a few different board sizes, so I'm changing them in and out there just to give it variation. Now that they're all assembled, let them dry completely before moving on to the next step. So I'm using a punch. It's a steel punch. I used to use it back when I was a welder. And I'm scoring the wood like I would do styrofoam with a pencil. Same concept, just you got to push a little harder on these coffee stir sticks. If I had enough balsa wood, I would have used balsa wood, and then you wouldn't have to draw on the wood grain with the wooden punch or the punch. You could use a stiff wire brush. Seen a few guys do that. And there's the completed texture. Now on to distressing the wood planks themselves. So just taking my X-Acto blade, going in, cutting up the corners, cutting off sides, just making the planks themselves look older, used, worn. They've been sitting there for a number of years. It's tedious, but it's worth it in the end. So now I'm using the punch again to punch in nail holes, so it looks like they're mechanically a fasten, but they're really not. So carving the uprights on the dock, I'm using these dowels. Which are 3/8 of an inch. I tried using Dremel. I wasn't happy with the outcome, so I carved just using a knife, some sandpaper after. And that's what I came up with these. I really like the look of that, so that's what we're gonna do. As I was carving these up, I also chose to carve up some 1/4 inch dowels as well. I just don't show that. Using a sanding block, that's what I had available. Use what you got. Could use some of that sandpaper I had from one of my the roads I made. Now I'm using this little hobby saw. I need a better one. This one's kind of found wanting, and this little hobby vise that I have had kicking around. Can't remember where I got either one of them. If I remember, I'll try to put it in the description down below. And I'm just cutting them to different lengths, 1 inch, 1 1/4 inch. Some of them are even longer than that. I do eventually clamp the little vise to my table. It makes it easier. Less struggles. There's one that's about 2 inches long. Take them, run them across the sandpaper on the top and bottom, get off any little extra burrs. Getting the bottoms of them flat, or at least one side of them flat. Don't have to have both of them. So they can stand when I start joining them together. Just taking my time. There it is. Now I'm grouping them into pairs, so there's an even piece on each end of the uprights. There will be. Usually I super glue the first piece together, and then I usually Eileen's tacky glue the next pieces on. Usually, not always. A few of them are all super glue. And there's the other half of it. Sorry, I was a little off camera there. Just gonna add checking the piece, and then add the glue. The big thing when I was joining them, adding each piece on, was to make them unique, as if they were driven in different times. Older, newer, that's why they're joined together like that. Different heights for each one. Now for the cross beam. Same thing as the upper planks for the walkways. Did the same thing for texturing them because I wanted them to look nice even if I didn't have a board on top, or sorry, the dock or the bridge piece. Super gluing in the top piece, I'll be putting on a side piece on the upright there. Don't show it, I forgot to include that, but I will show a completed one in a little bit. I'm using Eileen's tacky glue on the side one though. And there's also be a styrofoam one. I would also use Eileen's tacky glue on that because the super glue will eat it and wreck all the hard work you put in. And here's a completed one. So if you see, I also have some twine. I'm going to show you how I do that. It's coming up. There's a side one also. So the twine, I just have some jute twine and I pulled it apart, made it a little smaller. And I just super glued it to the uprights. And did my best, try not to stick my fingers to it. That's half the battle. when using super glue. So I added the jute twine to half of them, super gluing them on as I went, taking my time. Tried to prep each string before I put it on, and it's still it's a lot of just finagling and messing about. Now I'm Mod Podging the styrofoam bricks and the jute twine wherever I put it. And the Mod Podge has black paint, acrylic paint mixed in. There we have it. I used a Rust-Oleum gray primer on all the pieces. For the first coat of paint over everything, I'm choosing to use a burnt umber. Darkest brown I have. Using a big brush and coating every surface. Next paint I'm using is a cinnamon brown. So this is what's going to sell the technique of them sitting in the water, is you don't paint all the way down to the bottom of the uprights. You go just below your cross member there. Because it's going to be a gradient almost. It's going to sell the look that it's been sitting in water a long time. Water's constantly lapping at them. Just like the uprights, I'm adding the cinnamon brown to the top and lightly going over it so the recesses of the wood planks still has that dark tone. And we're selling the look that it's going to get sun bleached as it sits out, weather worn. I did some research as I was doing these. Actually, after the fact, I had them all built. I was like, wait, what do they look like? Oh, they're not bright and colorful. They're worn down, used. Just take your time. That's what I did. This is obviously sped up a little. Back to the uprights. I'm using a golden brown now. Going a little higher, very sloppily, just adding it on. Mostly just doing the upper raised areas. Same thing for your docked tops. Almost a dry brush. Getting the edges of the boards. Now this is a dry brush. I'm using I believe I'm using a fog gray on this. Can't remember. I'm recording this almost a month and a half later when I built it, so please forgive me. It was a busy time. Now onto the tops of the bridges. Another dry brush. Big old makeup brush. Found it at one Dollar Tree or Dollarama. Can't remember. I love this brush though. It is amazing for dry brushing. Get one. They're cheap and they work amazing. You can do so much more when using a big brush. You can cover so much more surface area. I'm adding a Nuln oil wash to all the uprights. Normally I'd use a homemade wash on terrain because, well, the Nuln oil is just way too expensive for terrain normally. But I needed that little bit of extra pigment in it just to sell the look. Now to get the jute twine rope, I'm using the contrast Guilliman's Flesh. Not something I'd normally use, but I just wanted something to stand out a little different than the rest of it. So I coated all the ropes in that and followed up with a dry brush of a golden brown. There it is. Completed dock/bridges for the gaming table. I sure enjoyed making these. I love the way they look. If you really enjoyed the video, hit the subscribe button. And as always, I'll be seeing you on our next adventure.